Hello and welcome back. This is Barrett from the C4 Cyber Club here at Cypress College. In this video, I'm going to cover the CCNA1 Packet Tracer 4.7.1 lab. So this is all about connecting the physical layer. We're going to be taking a look at identifying physical characteristics of various devices like a router and a switch. In the second part, we'll be looking at adding modules to them. So kind of like think expansion slots. We'll be given a scenario where we need some more connectivity options. So rather than buying an entirely new device, you can add expansion slots to these devices. And then in the third part, we'll get to connecting the devices, which will ultimately lead to our completion in the bottom right-hand corner here, going to 100%. You'll see these are all the devices that we'll be connecting. So much like the last lab that we worked on, the 4.6.5, we'll need to make sure that we are selecting the correct cabling when we do the connections as well. Great, so in the first part, we can go ahead and look at the physical aspects of the east router. And we could zoom in on this as well. So the question here is, which management ports are available? So you may recall from the earlier weeks or the earlier modules in this course, for management purposes, we can work with the console and the aux ports. It also asks which LAN and WAN interfaces are available. So I know this is kind of hard to see. Essentially we have two LAN ports here, the two serial ports. Then we also have 2 gigabit Ethernet ports here for the wide area networks. And now we could also go to the CLI or command line interface. And from here we could do show IP interface brief and basically see the same information. We have the 2 gigabit Ethernet interfaces here. So that's for the WAN or wide area network. And then we have the 2 serial ports or interfaces, which can be used for the local area network or LAN. Oh, and then it's also, showing you how you can get specific details about the specific interface as well. Whoops, I forgot the 0/0. And then, so it's asking here, what is the default bandwidth of this interface? So this is something you could find here where it says BW. So this is for the gigabit Ethernet 0/0 interface. And we see that we have 1 million kilobits of bandwidth. And then if I hit spacebar, we're back at the command prompt. We could show interface serial 0/0/0. And I misspelled that. A nice tip in Cisco iOS, in the command line, you could just press the up arrow and it's going to bring the last command that you ran. So in that case, I made a slight typo. So I just pressed up and I can backtrack to fix that. Okay, so in here, we can see the bandwidth here is much lower, only 1,544 kilobits. Okay, so let's see, we can move on to step 2, identify module expansion slots. Okay, so how many expansion slots are available to add additional modules to the east router? So we'll go back to the physical here. And from what I could tell here, we have 1 open spot here. And all you'll see on the left here, these are all of the different expansion slots. We're going to come back to that in just a moment. And then also on switch 2, it's asking how many expansion slots. You can zoom in. So here I would take this as 5. You know, we do see this one opening here, but these are essentially available expansion ports as well. So we have 5 options here. Okay, so in this second part now, we will actually select some modules to install into these 2 different devices. And keep in mind, this is super important because to complete this lab, some of the interfaces that we will be using are a part of these modules that we're going to be installing. So please make sure you do not skip this part. So first things first, we're looking at the router 0. Or I'm sorry, that was the last lab. We're looking at the east router. And I'm going to zoom in on the physical image. And we'll take a look at this scenario here. So it says you need to connect PCs 1, 2, and 3 to the east router, but you do not have the necessary funds to purchase a new switch. Which module can you use to connect the 3 PCs to the east router? So we're going to be looking at the various module options here, and we need something that we can connect these 3 PCs to. So you could look at it visually down here in the right corner. This kind of jumps out to me visually. You're looking through all these other ones. I don't really see anything that would work. So in this here, you see that in the description, it very plainly states the HWIC-4E SW provides 4 switching ports. So this would be perfect. And we would even have 1 port left over. So what we could do, we can drag this over, but notice if I do it without turning off the switch first, or I'm sorry, the router in this case, cannot add a module when the power is on. So we need to power this off. You can see how real world the packet tracer is. And now we can click and drag. We see that that's been added. And very important, you want to make sure that you power the router back on. If you forget to turn it back on, then you are not going to have a proper connection when you go to connect things in the next part of the lab. Okay, great. So that takes care of the east router. And now we're going to take a look at switch number 2. Go ahead and zoom in. And let's take a look at the scenario here. So which module can you insert to provide a gigabit optical connection to switch 3? So we know that we're looking for an optical connection, a gigabit optical connection. So once again, we could take a look. And remember from the last lab that an optical connection has a very distinctive look to it. And here we go. I just came across it here. But also you notice there's actually 2 opticals here. So remember optical cables, these are fiber optic cables. There's 2 cables, one for transmit, one for receive. And these are the cables that basically transmit pulses of light to transfer data. So now remember, we're looking for a gigabit optical. So we're going to want to look a little bit more detailed in the description here. So we see this one here provides a fast Ethernet connection. So that doesn't sound like the correct one. We'll come to this next one, and now we see provides a gigabit Ethernet optical connection. So the PT switch-NM-1FGE is what we're looking for. Reminder, we want to power off the switch, click and drag that over to the open spot, and then power the switch back on. So now we are good to go. Both of these devices have been upgraded. And essentially we just knocked out step 2 altogether here. And that brings us to step 3, or part 3, to connect all of these devices. We'll essentially just take it a line at a time. And you'll notice first thing we're focusing on is this east router here. So we're going to be connecting first to switch 1, and then to switch 4 right here, and then we will be connecting to PCs 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so first things first, and this does also just go ahead and give you the cable type, which is very useful. So we'll select copper straight through. From the east router, we choose gigabit Ethernet 0/0, and this is going to switch 1 on gigabit Ethernet 0/1. All right, we've got one green. We have an orange here. Remember, we could always fast forward time. That jumps 30 seconds ahead, and then it brings that into the green state. Okay, another copper straight through. We're going from the east router, gigabit Ethernet 0/1, over to switch 4, and that's going to be gigabit Ethernet 0/1. Okay, fast forward, make that green. Another copper straight through, east router, and now we're going to connect each of these to PCs 1, 2, and 3. So referencing the table, fast Ethernet 0/1/0 into fast Ethernet 0. Go ahead and select another copper straight through, fast Ethernet 0/1/1 into PC2. One more copper straight through from the east router 0/1/2 over to PC3. Great, and I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward time. Now all those connections are good. And that brings us to switch 1 now. So we're going to be going down to PCs 4, 5, and 6. So those will also be copper straight throughs from switch 1, fast Ethernet 0/1, into PC4, fast Ethernet 0. Another copper straight through from switch 1, fast Ethernet 0/2, into Ethernet 0. And just a reminder, each of these I am referencing the table over here. So we just did switch 1 to fast Ethernet 0/2 into PC5, and now we're going to PC6 right here. So we select the copper straight through from switch 1, fast Ethernet 0/3 into PC6, fast Ethernet 0. Great, so we're at 62% now, more than halfway through. So now we're going to be going switch to switch here. So we're going to go from switch 4 over to switch 3. So because these are the same connections and they are going to be transmitting and receiving on the same wires, we need to use a copper crossover cable. So super important. We will go from switch 4 from gigabit Ethernet 0/2 over to gigabit 3/1. Okay, we see those are orange. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward time. Good to go with green. Okay, now we're going to be looking at a fiber cable going from switch 3 to switch 2. So just going from switch 3 right down here. The fiber cable is the yellowish cable here. So this is going out of gigabit Ethernet 5/1 and then into switch 2 5/1 gigabit Ethernet. And remember, switch 2, this is the device that we added this additional module. So if we hadn't added that, we wouldn't be able to make this connection. Okay, we're good to go there. If you see this line is red, don't worry, that doesn't mean that it's wrong. That just denotes that it is a fiber connection. All right, so now we're looking at connecting all three of these PCs, PCs 7, 8, and 9, over to switch 2. So those will be all copper straight through cables. So from switch 2, fast Ethernet 0/1, we will go over to PC7, fast Ethernet 0. Another copper straight through from switch 2, fast Ethernet 1/1, over to PC8. And then another straight through from switch 2, fast Ethernet 2/1, over to PC9. All right, we are almost there. Now we'll be going from the switch 2 over down to the wireless access point. That's going to use also a copper straight through. We're going to go from gigabit 3/1 over to port 0. And now one last connection. We need to create a point-to-point serial connection from the east router to the west router. So we could select the serial DCE cable type down here. From east, we'll go serial 0/0/0 over to west of the same port. Very good. I am at 100%. Hopefully you are as well. If you need to, if you're not at 100% yet, be sure to check your results down here, and you can go to assessment items, and you could just double check any of these that you've missed. So it will display a red X on any specific thing you missed, and feel free to go back in the video to cover any sections that you've missed out on. And we can go ahead and check connectivity as well. Always a good idea. So let's say check the interface status on the east router. So we could pull up the CLI, show IP interface brief. We could see all of these interfaces that we've been utilizing. These are all up, and we are good to go there. And we could also look at connecting the wireless devices, so the laptop and the tablet PC. So first thing we want to do, come to laptop, go to config, and you may want to move the screen out a little bit, come down to wireless 0 interface, and you'll see this port status. We want to go ahead and turn that on. And you should notice in just a few moments, yep, there we go. We have that wireless connection. And I'm also going to fast forward time for 30 seconds just to make sure that that connection is taken. And we could do a connectivity test here. We can go over to desktop, open there's a web browser here, and we can navigate to www.cisco.pka, and we see a very basic test website load up there. So we have connectivity there. We could click the tablet PC and do the similar config. Go to wireless 0, expand this a little bit. You'll see the port status on. You should see that connection. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward time just to make sure that that takes. And we'll go ahead and repeat that connectivity test. We'll open up the web browser on the tablet and visit that website. Good to go. All right. Step 3, change the access method of the tablet PC. Okay, so we'll go back to config on the tablet PC. We're going to go back to the wireless 0 interface, and we're going to disable that port status. Instead, we're going to select the 3G, 4G Cell 1 interface, and we're going to turn this port status on. Okay, so now we're grabbing connection from the cell tower. I'm going to fast forward time, and now I believe Repeat the process of verifying web access. Yep, so we'll go ahead and do that website test again from the web browser. Not going through. Let me fast forward time. There we go. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but we're good to go now. All of the other PCs should have connectivity to the website in each other. You will learn to use connectivity testing in many upcoming labs, which is very true. It's always good to verify after you've completed. So I could do PC2 test, for example, just pick a random PC, and we should also be able to access that website. Okay. Yep, there we go. You can see we have green on everything. So everything is communicating properly. And that is it. So once again, double check your completion here down in the right-hand corner. You can check results, view your assessment items, and anything that you're missing here is going to be marked with a red X, so you could focus on that particular detail. So that concludes this lab, 4.7.1 packet tracer connecting the physical layer. Thanks a lot for watching.